Welcome to A Balanced Life on the Go. I'm Dr. Nicole Lindsay, your host on this podcast, along with Dr. Brian Jeanette. This is a podcast designed to help connect you to a more balanced life on the go. Each week, we will bring you simple, concise, and easy to implement ideas, tips, and strategies to help you connect to better nutrition, movement, and thinking so you can achieve balance in your busy life. Isn't this what life is all about? Trying to achieve balance so that we can be healthy, happy, and live to our fullest potential. We're glad you joined us. Let's get started. Hi, welcome to Balanced Life on the Go. This is Dr. Nicole Lindsay.
And I'm Dr. Brian Jeanette.
And today's podcast is Adrenal, Exhaustion, and Recovery.
I know a little bit about the adrenal glands.
Yeah, and I think that they're so underrated. They're not talked about with your regular visits to your physician. Many chiropractors don't know about them. It's just an area that most people do not talk about, but yet many people suffer with adrenal fatigue.
Yeah.
And there's things you can do about that.
There's absolutely things you can do about that. You bring up a good point that they're not talked about by your general physician, your general practitioner, your chiropractor, or any other type of doctor that you see, because they are that complicated. And adrenal fatigue or adrenal exhaustion is such a big and encompassing title that it can be kind of daunting when you have to look at where to start.
So we do that in our office, and part of being balanced and living in this busy world that we live in and trying to create more balance in your world on the go, we thought it was really important to bring this information to you. So whether you're a patient or not, you can utilize this information. We're going to talk about what the adrenal glands do in your body, what exhaustion looks like when they are fatigued, the signs and symptoms associated with that, how you can test your adrenal glands, and then most importantly, how you can recover from that and get back on your feet. Because fortunately, a lot of the things that need to be done for adrenal fatigue are things that you have to do. Nobody can do for you.
Yeah. They're things that you have to do, things that you know that you should do, but haven't quite necessarily taken the steps to do them.
Exactly. So first of all, before we get into that, we need to have the conversation. What socks are we wearing today?
I've got my classic North Carolina mountain socks on. You know, the socks are kind of gray, and it's kind of a gray day outside, so I thought it fit.
It's sleeting, actually.
Yeah, I know.
So, okay, perfect. I'm glad we got that out of the way. So, okay, signs and symptoms of adrenal fatigue. So what does that look like? How do you know if your adrenals are fatigued?
There's lots of different ways that we know that our adrenals are fatigued. The number one sign or symptom that we would see is probably fatigue in most people. Fatigue, irritability, trouble sleeping on lots of occasions, this sluggishness of thought and memory almost.
Mental fatigue.
Fatigue.
It affects you everywhere. Yes,
Yeah.
not recovering from allergies when you have chronic sinusitis and it just keeps coming back, and you keep giving that excuse. Oh, I just have allergies. Oh, it's just the pollen. No, that's a sign of adrenal fatigue.
Listen, you don't have allergies for 12 months out of the year.
Yes,
I'm telling you.
exactly.
Unless you're that unlucky.
Right. Adrenals not functioning will cause that. That general gray feeling, like your socks, where you just feel unwell. You don't feel well, right?
Yeah. Probably one of the biggest signs and symptoms that people don't necessarily associate with adrenal fatigue is low blood sugar and low blood pressure that happens with it. So this orthostatic hypertension, where you're sitting down and you're fine, then you stand up and then you get lightheaded, you get dizzy for a second, you have to hold on to something because you feel like you're going to pass out. This low blood pressure.
And having to grab a cup of coffee or soda or other stimulants to get going in the morning, or that 3 o'clock bump where you need that. You feel like you're dropping and you're about to give out. So those are all signs of adrenal fatigue. And we actually have a survey in our office. If you're a patient, you can fill out to see if you are suffering with adrenal fatigue. So if you are, the next step is to test for adrenal fatigue. And I get this question a lot from patients, can we test for this? Is there a blood test or a test that my doctor can do? Because that seems to be the standard, right? Mm-hmm. Most people, they want to get something tested. And yes, the answer is yes, you can. And you can test the adrenals. Your medical doctor can do that with a blood test, a urine test as well. Now, most of the time, adrenal fatigue will only show up on those tests if you have severe adrenal fatigue.
Right. And with these tests, what they're searching for is a decreased level, or even an increased level in some cases, of cortisol. And when it's just shifted slightly, when it's shifted away from your normal, but still within the quote-unquote normal range, that's when that test is not going to pick up adrenal fatigue. It's not going to be effective in diagnosing or accurately diagnosing adrenal fatigue.
Similar to like a gluten test. I know myself, I was tested for gluten celiacs and gluten sensitivity through my blood, through my urine, and of course it came up negative for celiacs, but then I had gluten antibodies in a stool test, so I am actually sensitive to gluten. So similar concept here is that you might have that test done at your MD's office and it shows negative, doesn't necessarily mean that your adrenals are not fatigued.
Right.
You can also do a saliva test, and there are kits that you can get and send off to a laboratory, and they are very simple, very accurate, and very reliable.
Yeah, and they're, in most cases, a lot more cheap.
Yeah, definitely. We can put you in touch with companies that do that as well. So those are the tests that you can do. Now, there's some things that you can actually test on yourself at home to see if you have adrenal fatigue. You can do what's called the iris contraction test. And this, you're going to need a flashlight, a mirror, and a watch. And what you're going to do is shine the flashlight across your eye. And when your adrenals are functioning normal, your pupil should contract and remain contracted as long as the light is shining on it. That's a normal response. If your adrenals are weak, what will happen is your pupil won't be able to hold its contraction, and it's going to dilate despite the light shining on it. And this dilation will take place within 2 minutes and will last for about 30 to 45 seconds. So this iris contraction test will oftentimes tell you that your adrenals are fatigued. If your adrenals are fatigued, in mild cases, this may or may not show up.
Mm-hmm. So, and that's a really easy home test or home way to do it. Another way to do it is to test the blood pressure, just like we had talked about a couple minutes ago. So for this, you're going to need a blood pressure cuff at your house. And so what you need to do is you lie down for 10 minutes. You're lying, you're resting, you're going to take your blood pressure, right? And then you're going to stand up and take your blood pressure again immediately after you stand up. Now, upon standing, that blood pressure should be slightly higher, about 10 to 20 milligrams of mercury higher than when you're laying down. If you have weak adrenals, if your blood pressure actually decreases or even stays the same.
Yeah, so most people have blood pressure cuffs at home now, so that's definitely something you can do. There's one more test you can do on your own, and this is called the Sergeant's White Line. You need a ballpoint pen, and you're going to take the dull end of that pen and just stroke the skin of your abdomen, making a mark about 6 inches long. And in normal cases where your adrenal glands are functioning well, that line will be white, but it'll turn red within a few seconds. When your adrenals are weak, that line is going to stay white for about 2 minutes and can also widen. And again, this may or may not be present in mild cases of adrenal fatigue, but this is another sign that's present in most cases, 40% of the time when people are suffering with adrenal fatigue. So very, very simple things that you can do at home on your own to test for adrenal fatigue. So now let's talk about what we need to do to recover, because, okay, I've done the testing. I know that I'm tired. I'm grabbing that coffee. I'm not sleeping well. What can I do to recover from adrenal fatigue? And I think what's even more important before we jump into this is talk about the causes of adrenal fatigue, because we hear from people all the time, this started after the death of my parent, or this started after I had a baby, or after I had that car wreck, which was very traumatic.
Or I got a new stressful job, or I had an injury, or some really large traumatic life event, or even very small traumatic events that happen continuously.
Or a moderate to severe event, and then the cumulative effect of everything else on top of it. So the adrenal glands are the glands of stress. They are walnut-sized glands. You have two of them, and they sit on top of your kidneys. And anytime that your body is under stress, whether it is like we said, an emotional stress, whether it's a death in the family, a change in job, or a physical stress, a surgery, a childbirth, anything like that, your adrenal glands are going to go into action, and they are responsible for pumping out the hormones and the chemicals that you need to recover from that stressful event.
And the big hormone that we talk about, that's in all the movie, or that's in all the infomercials, that's in all, this over-the-counter diet medication, cortisol, that we talk about. Cortisol, and actually another one called aldosterone. And when we are stressed, those adrenals secrete, or they put out higher levels of cortisol. And that's when our body can immediately take that and run from that tiger, run from, prey, or even chase after, or run from predator or chase after prey, I should say.
And that's the way it's supposed to be, right? Our body's designed to handle that stressful event in short spurts. And the adrenal glands go into action. They pump out the cortisol. They help you recover from that stressful event. That's a normal situation. Now, what happens when we live this busy life on the go, those adrenal glands never get a break.
Never. They're constantly pumping out this cortisol, and then it just keeps increasing until it gets to an unsustainable level.
And those adrenal glands just cannot function anymore, and they literally get shriveled up and exhausted. I mean, picture yourself when you're at that point of exhaustion, curled up in a ball. That's what those adrenal glands are doing. And then what happens is they stop producing.
Yeah. An analogy that we could use is if you take a grape, a big, fat, juicy grape, those are healthy adrenal glands. And then you dehydrate that grape, you take all the juice out, and it becomes that raisin. That's what the adrenals look like when you are constantly under bombardment of stress.
So now you have another stressful event and you just can't deal, right? Because those adrenal glands are not there to support you, to help you get through the stressful event. So this is what adrenal fatigue is. And this can happen for decades. You can have adrenal fatigue for years and remain that way until those adrenal glands get the help that they need. So that's what it's all about. And I know personally I went through this. I went through a period where I had a lot of stressful things going on in my world. I had another business outside of chiropractic that was failing, and a business partner relationship that was going awry. And I was in the middle of buying a commercial building during that time and moving my practice. I had a staff member that was diagnosed with cancer, and she was going away to get treatment, and it was real serious, and just a lot of stuff, right? All at once. And I was also training for a half marathon at the time. So the endurance type activities are also very stressful in our body. We're not made to do that. So that on top of it, and I remember the day that my adrenals finally gave out, this was all happening. I ran that half marathon, and when I hit that finish line, it was a feeling of joy because I did it, but at the same time, everything came crashing down, and I think my body gave up at that moment. And that's typically what will happen. You will crash and burn and get to that point when you don't give those adrenals what they need.
And I think that's the hardest part about adrenal fatigue or adrenal exhaustion, is to recognize when you're in it, or even recognize after it has already happened and taken place. When you cross that finish line, you were able to recognize what happened, and then you took steps to correct it. So actually being able to understand what your body's going through is one thing, and then taking steps to correct it is a whole other beast of burden.
Yeah, because here's the thing. The adrenal glands, they control your hormones. They control your thyroid gland. They control your sleep cycle. They control your immune system. They control your ability to recover from stress. They control many things in your life and health. And so this is why it is so important. So if you're resonating with what we are saying and you're saying, you know what? Yes, this sounds like me. Then keep listening, because we're going to tell you what you need to do to recover from adrenal.
I think there are 3 to 4 really big things that we can do to help address these adrenal glands. One of them, the first one that we always suggest, is to address that lifestyle. Identify and remove those health drains that are common components in our life.
And that's it. There's always something that's dragging you down constantly. Could be a combination of things, and that most commonly it's going to be exercising incorrectly. Maybe you've been a runner for 20 years, right? And you've been doing long distance running, but yet you feel like crap. You're exhausted all the time.
Yeah, you're not recovering good enough.
Maybe your sleep cycle's off, and it's been off. And I hear this a lot from women. Ever since I had my daughter 8 years ago, I've never slept right. Well, that's a problem.
What's going on? Why?
That's a problem.
That's a red flag. The other one is diet and food. What are you consuming on a daily basis? How is that affecting you? What is that doing to you?
Exactly. So we want to address the lifestyle issues that are causing adrenal fatigue, number 1. We want to address your diet, number 2. And then there are some supplements and herbs that you need to take, step 3. So let's dive into lifestyle first and talk about some of the things that you can do to help with your lifestyle issues.
The first one that I always like to talk about is this ability to control and manage your stress in life. The worst response that a doctor or advice that somebody can give you is just to say, well, take stress out of your life.
What do we need to do to address these adrenal glands? So let's go ahead and talk about that. Identify and remove what's draining you, what's draining your life, and what's good for me, bad for me exercise is what I like to call it. So the easiest way to do this is just take out a piece of paper, and you're going to draw a vertical line down the center of that paper. And at the top on the left column, you're going to write what's good for me. And at the top on the right, you're going to write what's bad for me. And just spend some time and journal and write this down. And it may have to happen over the course of a couple days where you keep adding to this. But do it. It sounds simple and remedial, but really important. And write down whether it's stuff in your personal life, stuff in your business life, or what you have to do at work, family, relationships, everything. Just write it down.
That actually sounds pretty difficult, because the more and more I talk with patients about lifestyle, about how to relax, and about how to do more things for yourself, the most common answer that I get is, I don't have time to do things for myself. I'll start exercising when I retire. So I think this is a really, really important exercise, an important drill, just to declutter your life, to bring that life back in balance.
Yeah, exactly. Because what's going to happen if you continue to do the things that drain you, that are health drains, you are going to get exhausted. And I'm not just talking about mental exhaustion, I'm talking about physical exhaustion, which is what happens when your adrenal glands are used and abused. So what you want to do is, after you complete this and you write down the things that are good for me and bad for me, you're going to circle the top 5 in each column. And you're going to work to eliminate those bad items and commit to doing more of the good things that make you happy.
Bad items in life are like quicksand. They draw you in and they trap you. And the more and more you struggle against doing these bad things, the faster you sink.
Yes, exactly. I mean, I feel like I want to drop the mic right there, because it is true. It just drains you. So that lifestyle, health, drain, exercise is really important. We want you to start there. The next subject that we need to talk about.
Sleep. You're going to get your Z's.
Gotta get your Z's.
Gotta get some shut-eye.
When it comes to adrenal fatigue, most of the time I find that the person is not sleeping. And they'll say that I haven't slept good. I just don't sleep. And they've accepted that as normal for them.
I go to bed late. I wake up tired. Or I wake up in the middle of the night and I never sleep through the night. I wake up at 2 a.m. and I'm wide awake.
And this is what I've been doing for the past 15 years. So it's just normal. This is my pattern. So what you're saying is you're going through life feeling like a zombie and you've accepted that as normal, right?
Yeah.
So many people
do that. We have to function on sleep. The minimum amount of sleep that humans need to survive and function is just over 6 hours.
Yeah, and that's just to function. Now, to be healthy,
you need 8
as an adult. Children need 9, and that's been proven.
I mean, ask my mom. When I was a teenager, I slept till like noon or 1 o'clock.
Right?
Yeah.
My 13-year-old's doing that now.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're growing. They need a lot more sleep. So when it comes to adrenal fatigue and repairing your adrenals, we've got to get your sleep cycle back. And you can get it back. If it's been out of sync and you haven't been sleeping for 10, 20, 30 years, know that when you repair your adrenal glands, you will get your sleep cycle back on track and you'll start sleeping healthfully.
One of the best ways to get that sleep cycle back on track is to maintain or start a routine when you're going to bed. Go to bed at the same time every night. Go to bed, get into bed by 10 p.m. so you can fall asleep before 11 p.m. Maintain that every single night. Try to stay in bed or try not to wake up until the very last moment that you have to. Maybe 8:30, maybe if you work at 9 o'clock, maybe 7 o'clock, right? So make sure that you're allotting that 8 hours or sufficiently enough time to fall asleep. Stay asleep, get rest, and then wake up feeling refreshed.
Yeah, getting that cycle. And a lot of people will say that have sleep problems. Well, I don't go to bed till midnight. I cannot go to sleep until midnight. And I realize that it's very hard and difficult to go lay down at 9 p.m. and get your body and your mind in that mode of sleep. But you will be able to fall asleep. It's just a matter of breaking that old pattern and creating a new one.
Which is why that routine is so important. It might be hard the first night. It might be hard the second night. It might be hard for the first week. But as soon as your body starts to get into that routine, our bodies love to be in a routine.
Yeah, for sure. We're creatures of habit all the way down to the cellular level. So yes, it's really important to listen to your body too when it comes to sleep. And the reason why we want you to be in bed before 10 p.m. or asleep, I should say, at 10 p.m. is because we're tied in with the rhythms of the universe, if you will. And your brain actually will release certain chemicals to relax you. And you have to be asleep in order to allow the brain to get in that resting state. Because then you'll get another dose at midnight. And if you are already asleep, when that next dose comes, then you get into that what's called deep REM sleep. And that's when the growth hormone is emitted. That's when your body starts replacing cells. If you're not asleep by 10 p.m., you cannot get the benefit you need at 12 p.m. from the next dose to get into deep REM sleep. You'll get another dose at 3 a.m., and that's it. And now your brain starts waking. So when you have adrenal fatigue, your body's not repairing itself the way that it needs to. And that's another reason why you are so tired, because you're not tapping into that deep REM sleep.
I like that. That makes a lot of sense. Now, I know a lot of you are thinking that, how can she say this? How can you guys talk about this? This is not me. I've never done this. I've never been in a situation where I've slept 8 hours. These aren't hard line rules. These are guidelines and suggestions. If you have to go to sleep at midnight, maybe you wake up at 10 o'clock instead. If you have to go to sleep at 8 p.m., maybe you wake up at 6 a.m. You have to find routines that keep your life imbalanced and work for you. The other thing I hear a lot is, I wake up at 2 a.m. and I just can't go back to sleep. What am I going to, I just cannot go back to sleep. Now, this is also a sign of adrenal fatigue because your cortisol levels are either too high or too low with this. Now, there's two pieces of advice I give to people at this time. Your circadian rhythm, your sleep cycle is off. You wake up at 2 a.m., you are fully alert and ready to go. Do something. Do the dishes. Read a book. Pick your clothes out for that morning. You start to get going. You start to get that routine started. You're going to get tired because that's what happens. We wake up, we feel alert. An hour later, we get tired. We're like, I need my morning coffee. When you get tired, get back in bed and fall back asleep. The other piece of advice I give to people is, what did you have before you went to bed? Did you have a really high starchy food? Did you have a really high fatty
bowl of cereal or bowl of ice cream?
Carb laden, sugar with sprinkles of sugar and chocolate on top. This can really affect your sleep cycle too, because if you're not, another sign of adrenal fatigue, like we said, is our digestion issues. So if you're not digesting food, you eat this salty, carbohydrate-laden, sugary thing before you go to bed, ice cream, and now it's just sitting in your stomach, and your body's not digesting it, and you feel just miserable and blah. Because you feel miserable and blah because you're not digesting it. You're not going to process that food, and it's sitting in your stomach now.
Yeah, exactly. So one of the things you can do is, instead of eating sugar and high starch before you go to bed, if you find that you do wake up at 1 a.m. or sometime between 1 and 3 a.m. and you're wide awake, then eat some protein before you go to bed, like a slice of cheese on a gluten-free cracker, something like that, a scoop of peanut butter, just some kind of protein. That way your blood sugar doesn't spike in the middle of the night and wake you up, because that's why that's happening.
Yep.
The other thing I wanted to say too is, when you're recovering from your adrenals, and we're talking about trying to get your sleep cycle on this rhythm and this pattern, you want to also listen to your body. And if your body says, I'm tired, I need you to lay down, you need to do that. You need to go lay down. If it's a Saturday morning and Sunday morning and you can sleep in and stay in bed until noon, don't feel guilty about that. Do that. Listen to your body and take advantage of the time so that your body can heal. And don't let yourself feel guilty for doing that.
Your body recovers when you're asleep.
Yes, and sometimes you need more. So, and that goes for rest breaks too. If you feel throughout the day that you're just exhausted, when you're in this recovery mode of adrenal recovery, take short breaks and get horizontal. There's something that happens when you lay horizontal, even if you're not going to sleep. Just lay down, get your feet up, go lay in your car, wherever you can't lay in your office, and lay down 15 to 30 minutes if you're tired. And this is extremely beneficial for your adrenal glands. So listen to that. So just as a general guideline for your sleep and improving your sleep pattern, go to bed before 10 p.m. and stay in bed until 9 a.m. whenever possible.
The other thing that we like to do, I know that if I don't exercise during the day, I won't sleep at night, or I won't sleep as soundly at night. Making sure you get exercise during the day. The other thing that we want to make sure that we're avoiding to help our adrenals recover and to sleep better is avoiding coffee, avoiding caffeine, and any chocolate or alcoholic beverage that might keep you awake before you go to bed.
Yep. If you suffer with adrenal fatigue, you have to cut that stuff out until your adrenals get repaired.
Bum, bum, bum.
I know. That's where we just lost all our listeners.
Done.
Avoid using computers and TV after 8 p.m. The electronic magnetic frequencies that come off these things can affect your sleep, so it's important to not be in front of them.
Makes your eyes tired, makes them sore and strained, so that plays another role into it as well.
Keeping your room as dark as possible, shutting off all lights, LED lights, all of that. There's also a couple supplements that I find has helped patients over the years with their sleep. Calcium and magnesium, mega doses of that at night before you go to bed. We have one in the office called Mintran. Standard process makes it. Take 4 of them before you go to bed at night, and that really helps get your brain and your body relaxed before bed.
When we are trying to restore our adrenals, we have lots of supplements that we take. So the other one are taking the adrenal extracts at night, about a half hour before you go to bed, like you just said. So the Adrenal, about a half hour before you go to bed.
Yeah, that's an awesome one.
Yeah.
So there you go. There are some simple things that you can start working on to address your adrenal fatigue and start recovering from that when it comes to lifestyle. The second step that we want to talk about is food recovery.
Food is so important. You are what you eat. And if you eat bad food, your body's going to respond very badly or very poorly. So when to eat food and what to eat, that's the big question. So people with adrenal fatigue tend to have low blood sugar. So it's really important that you eat high quality foods at regular intervals.
Yeah, I know. One of the things that drained my adrenals over the years, I mentioned my personal story with this, was, we have early office hours, 3 days of the week. We start seeing patients at 7 a.m. And for years, I couldn't eat first thing in the morning. So I would go through my morning shift and I wouldn't eat lunch. I wouldn't eat breakfast until lunch.
I would black out.
I did that for years. And, that's one of the things that exhausted my adrenals. So if you're doing that, if you're skipping meals, know that you're setting yourself up for adrenal fatigue if you don't already have it.
Only if you haven't cut the stress out from your life. Now, we know that periods of fasting are actually good for us, can actually prolong health, prolong our lifespan, help fight off disease, ward off disease. But if you're constantly stressed and you're in the state of heightened stress or heightened awareness all the time, this is so bad for you that you have to continuously get nutrients into your body. Like we talked about, those high quality nutrients at regular intervals, right? The other thing that we like to do is, again, eat when you first wake up, or eat before 10 a.m. If you eat when you first wake up or before 10 a.m., that might be 8 or 9 o'clock. Have an early lunch. Eat before noon. That way that by the time 2 or 3 o'clock rolls around, you can have a nice snack or a healthy snack before dinner.
Yeah, exactly. And starting the day with protein is really important for adrenal recovery. So hard-boiled eggs or scrambled eggs or eggs or eggs.
I love eggs.
I do too.
Yeah.
I just feel better with eggs. When I was going through my severe adrenal recovery program, I would start with fish in the morning. I would do steamed fish with greens, with kale and spinach, and that would just set the tone for the day, starting that way in the morning. So protein in the morning. I know not everybody wants to eat fish in the morning, but that's really important. And like you said, lots of meals throughout the day.
Yeah. So I think those are the two biggest things that are probably the most important to work on, is that lifestyle and is that food that we eat.
Yeah, absolutely. So avoiding the unrefined carbohydrates, the grains.
Please avoid the unrefined or the refined carbohydrates and the grains. Do you know what the 6 foods are that we most commonly consume in America?
Oh, I can only imagine. Let's see, Coca-Cola.
Boom. That's one.
Macaroni and cheese, like boxed, probably.
Pretty much bread. Yeah.
I think there was a point where cigarettes were on that list.
I eat cigarettes. I mean, you just crush it up in your cereal. Yeah. So the grain-based desserts, the cakes, the pies, all this stuff. The breads that we eat that go with the pasta that we eat, that go with the macaroni and cheese, the Coca-Cola, the sugar-laden beverages, sweetened beverages, pizza, again, more bread, alcohol, and actually fried chicken. And we're not talking about we're talking like chicken nuggets. We're talking like deep fried chicken in hydrogenated oils that just tears us up from the inside out.
Ugh.
That's
it. That's the American diet right there. And those are all the things you should be avoiding when you have adrenal fatigue.
Coke and chicken nuggets.
Cigarettes. And cigarettes sprinkled on top of it. So yes, so what to eat, not to eat, well, there you have it. Basically, you want to combine fat, protein, and your healthy grains, your quinoa, your rice, at every meal. That's what you want to do. Now, salt craving is really common for adrenal fatigue. So if you crave salt, then chances are your adrenals need some attention. And it's okay to use salt. Use sea salt. And I find that when I was going through severe recovery, I would actually put a little sea salt in the palm of my hand and just put it in my mouth just to give my body that, because it needed that instead of grabbing unhealthy salty
craving that
foods.
sensation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Make sure it's healthy sea salt though. The Celtic sea salt is the best.
Yeah.
Using flaxseed oil, you avoiding all fried foods, all hydrogenated and partially hydrogenated oils. Like Dr. Brian said, avoiding the cakes, the pies, donuts, cookies containing white flour, sugar, and chocolate, and then avoiding the drinks, coffee, cola, alcohol, black tea, and hot chocolate.
I think coffee and caffeine is going to be the hardest thing for people to accept. But once you restore these adrenals and once you start sleeping efficiently, sleeping properly, getting an amazing night's rest, you'll find that you won't need coffee.
Yeah, you actually start feeling human again, which is amazing when you cut caffeine out of your diet.
I love when I feel human.
The third step in this adrenal recovery process are the supplements. The supplements and herbs that just help take you to the next level to recover from adrenal fatigue. And these are really important. We do carry these in the office, and for those of you that are not patients, we can certainly help you find providers that carry these supplements, or we can ship them to you, but very important in this process. So there's a few things. There's what's called adaptogens, and adaptogens are supplements that actually extract the DNA material from adrenal tissue from bovine animals. And these have been used in Chinese medicine for years. And these adaptogens or glandulars are really good supplements to use to help anybody recovering from any gland issue. And we found them so helpful with adrenal recovery. So there are the desiccated adrenals is one, and then there's Grenatropin PMG. Those are supplements, tablets that are adaptogens that will repair your adrenal glands. Now, you don't want to take these forever. You'll take them for about 90 days. In addition to that, you're going to do high-grade licorice, which is amazing for helping the adrenals repair. Now, it does not taste good. I will tell you that, and you're going to hate me for making you take this, but
just close your eyes and plug your nose and go.
You'll find something to chase it with, but you'll get it down.
Not coffee.
No, not caffeine. But the three of those, that is the 90-day intense protocol to take care of your moderate to severe adrenal fatigue. You will know when you can come off of these when you start sleeping without medication, when you feel good, you have that general sense of well-being, when you get your energy back. All of these symptoms will start resolving when your adrenal glands are functioning again. And that's when you can step down from the severe moderate adrenal protocol to the step down protocol, which involves still taking Grenatropin PMG for a little while longer and adding what's called Drenamin. And these are supplements that are further going to help your adrenals.
Tell you, one of my favorite supplements that's in here is the Mintran, this calcium and magnesium supplement. You are going to sleep like a baby. Mm-hmm. You're going to be so calm and peaceful, you're going to be knocked out. I love this supplement.
I do too. And that's part of the maintenance adrenal protocol. So once you've done the severe adrenal protocol and you're feeling better, you've stepped down to Grenatropin and Drenamin. Now we're going to go on the maintenance. And some people do this regularly and some people don't. Some people come back to it when they've had some really stressful moments. But the maintenance adrenal protocol is going to be the Drenamin, 3 tablets. 3 times a day, and the Mintran, 4 tablets at bedtime. And then, of course, your multivitamin, which Standard Process makes one called Catalin, and you can take 3 of those as well at bedtime. So those are the supplements that we recommend, and we'd be happy to help you. So I think that covers adrenal, exhaustion, and recovery.
I think so.
The one thing, because of course we always like to give you the one thing to start working on, is if you heard something in this podcast that made you feel like your adrenals are exhausted and are part of your problem, part of why you don't feel good, the one thing I want you to do, to act on, to get balanced, is to sit down and make that list, that health drain list. Take the time to do that. It doesn't have to take much of your time, but take some action now so that you can start getting your life and your health back on check.
I'm so glad that was your one thing to do to stay back in balance, or to get back in balance. This life on the go is so crazy. So making sure that we do this health drain and taking these things off that are drains to us. I know you know what they are, because I know everybody's thinking, I know, but I just, yeah. This is your time to do the one thing to help get back in balance.
You don't have to live this way. So this decision to make to get healthier is yours, and you just have to make it. So we're here to help you. If you're a patient and you want to fill out that adrenal health survey to see if you actually are suffering with adrenal fatigue, then ask us for it, and we'll be happy to help you on that journey.